Okay. Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tips and Tea with Coach Brittany. Today, we have the wonderful Metta. She has a wonderful story of how she has overcome adversity and trauma in her life and used those things not as crutches, but catapults in order to catapult her into a brighter future. So, please put your hands together and welcome Miss Metta. Hi, Metta. How are you?
Thank you, Brittany. I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, all is well. All is well. I'm so happy to have you here on Tips and Tea today.
Thank you. And thank you for such a generous introduction.
Yes, ma'am. So I like to dive right on in and tell us a little bit about yourself, your story, what brought us here.
My name's Metta, and I wanted to share my story of recovering and creating a life after a very abusive relationship and share more about the challenges and the difficulties I faced on the path and how I navigated those by myself and trying to find support and come out on the other side where I could look back and tell myself that was hard and I am very happy that I'm here on the other side.
Yes, and we are so happy. Um, my hope is always that people can look at the stories that are portrayed here and told here and see a little bit of themselves and see that recovery is possible from anything that life throws your way. So tell us your story of recovery from trauma.
So it all started in the childhood. I think that's how it starts mostly for a lot of people because the unhealthy childhood dynamic are replicated subconsciously in the adulthood, and
Mm,
that's what creates or keeps up with this cycle of abuse and trauma with most people around us. And that's what happened to me as well. And as a doctor and also as a student going back to school again, to finish up my specialty, I have reflected back on so many studies, research, and also through my own journey, which has corroborated with my own findings that I have encountered throughout my life. Growing up was very unhealthy for me because I had very emotionally immature parents, which I didn't know. And as a child, I was pretty mature for my age, but I didn't realize that was a reflection of my conditioning to keep them happy. And then I never got along at all with my biological mother. And that was reflected in my relationship that I had with my ex, which was exactly similar without me realizing. And when the abuse started happening, it wasn't out of ordinary because you know what? Hey, my mom was like that when I was growing up. So I didn't really have any questions because guess I was raised like that. So I would be married in a similar relationship. It wasn't until it really became too serious for my life and my safety that I started feeling that I have not seen women treated like that in marriages. I don't deserve to be beaten, and
mm,
what is causing this? So I learned about a whole lot, and and I realized that I've been around toxic, unhealthy people all my life, and I have the power to say no. And how do I exercise that?
that is so wonderful. And that, like, I call it aha moments. And it's so interesting to see, like, people's aha moments and what led them to those things, because everybody's threshold for whether it be suffering, whether it be adverse childhoods, whether it be whatever that is, those adversities, um they're all different. They're all different. And again, everybody's threshold is different. So it's very interesting to see, okay, when was enough enough? When did I decide to say, you know what, I don't deserve this, whatever your this is. Like, it's just so, it's so interesting to hear and see. So what you're saying, or what I heard was, you went through, some adverse childhood experiences, right? Where you and your mom, that you didn't have the best relationship, and that kind of translated into your interpersonal relationships or your romantic relationships. So it is so, and that's a testament to how so very important it is to be able to identify those childhood traumas and then recover. The sooner the better, so that they don't end up just like piling on and becoming your norm, like a toxic norm,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Right. So, what were some of the most challenging moments within that abusive marriage that you talked about?
There were so many of the challenging moments. And for the most part, I didn't realize, because not only did I have the difficult childhood, but I was also the older daughter.
Hmm.
And we all know the oldest daughter suffering, which is very clearly shared by a lot of creators and media in the
Hmm.
world. And so for me, hard was okay. Everything was supposed to be hard. And that continued for the most part. And when COVID hit, so I was frontline during COVID,
Hmm.
and I played a very important role frontline, um, working with the epidemiology side of things. And at the same time, the abuse was slowly escalating. So I never had help for anything. So I'm working more than full time when I'm frontline. I'm still taking care of the apartment. I'm still taking care of cleaning, cooking, you know, and paying the bills.
Hmm.
While my ex-husband, he didn't help with anything. And not only that, I was also running a business. I had an education business, which I closed off down the line. I also had a podcast. I was doing all these things because some things I was doing because I wanted to, a couple of things I was doing because I didn't know I could ask for help, or even I could even receive help. I thought I'd just have to suck it up and do it. And it kept piling and piling up because I had no savings. I was practically man of the house,
Hmm.
and the woman of the house as well. And on top of that, that was around the same time when we bought a house together, and it was using both of our credits. I have not lived there in a long time, and the house is still in my name. I never received any money even after leaving them, I mean my ex-husband. And so the abuse started escalating, and we moved into the new house. I'm still working a lot. I have not had rest. I've not slept more than 3-4 hours every night for, it's been almost 10 months at this point. And I realized that I'm starting to need more help because my body is not coordinating anymore. It's tired. But that became a
Hmm.
problem again. Um, Me needing help was a problem. Me needing rest was a problem. So when the first time I was physically abused or beaten, um, was in 2021. And I still couldn't fathom, like, what exactly happened? Why did I deserve to be beaten for that? And then I kind of put it under the rug saying he's stressed. But then it happened again 2 weeks later, then 2 weeks again after that. And the worst part happened during a Labor Day weekend in 2021, where he is literally sitting on top of me on my chest and strangulating me. And I look into his eyes and I realize this is not the person who I had married all those years ago. This is not the person who I had met all those years ago. This is not even a person at this point, based on how it looked. And the only thing he kept saying was, I hate you so much. I just want to kill you. And I kept asking, what did I do to deserve this? All I wanted was a husband who would take care of me, a home where I would be safe. And that's it. I didn't want anything more than that. I didn't ask for a rich husband. I didn't ask for a big house. I didn't ask for, Gucci, Christian Louboutin, or anything. I was very grateful for what I had. And I didn't see that what I had was unhealthy. And that was the most challenging trauma that accumulated to a point where I realized this is it. This is it. It's not going to work hereafter. It took some time also after that incident because I didn't have help, or he'd taken all my money. I had a lot of debt. And so I decided I'm going to talk to his family and see if I can work things up and if they can talk to him and see. However, when I spoke with his family, his father said that if his son, which was my ex-husband, is beating me, I should be grateful that he's beating me, and I deserve it as his wife, and it's my role to be beaten. And if he kills me, I should really thank my stars that I was killed by his son as his wife, because that's exactly what my destiny is, since I'm married into their house. And even today, just reminding all that is very painful for me. And just believing and hearing a man say that I deserve to die was another nail in the coffin. That what did I do to deserve this? What was my fault? So escalation of all these challenging moments were the culmination of that entire abusive marriage.
Now, I can imagine that that is a very isolating experience. But that in mind, did you have any type of support system at that time?
No, I did not. I thought I did.
Mm-hmm.
I had friends who called themselves spiritual friends, and everybody else, his family was overseas. My biological family was overseas, so I didn't have any network near me. And I had told my friends, my spiritual friends, about this. They also brainwashed and gaslighted me into believing that one friend, she said the same thing what my ex's father had said, that you have bad karma. People throw that word around quite a bit, that I have bad karma and I need to suffer through the bad karma so that it doesn't come up back again in any of my future lifetimes. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't spoken explicitly, but she had mentioned that if it needs for me to die, I should let that happen, because that will help the the eradication of karma. And I still cannot fathom how can anyone say that to a person who has bruises on their body and is asking for help in the close network. I have helped many women in the abusive situation thereafter, and I have never felt that they deserve it. Or even r- say that in my conscious awake moments that, hey, you've gotten beaten, you deserve this, I think you should
Mhm.
stay and just keep enduring it, because it's going to help you with whatever my belief is. Like, no. And that was the only network I had at the time, because
Mhm.
of being home all the time, not going out, and COVID. It didn't help because I didn't have support system. um, I asked help with my doctors, and uh, they were very helpful. They gave me resources of safe places. They gave me resources with where I could receive help as a legal aid as well. And I was blessed in a way that where I was working frontline at the time, which I did for the longest time. Even I worked until after I left him as a
Mhm.
frontline in COVID. So the people I was working with were the most helpful. My my manager, I had told them first thing after I left my ex-husband that, hey, this is happening. I am very sorry. I might need to be out for some time if I have to take care of some legal stuff, paperwork, and so. He was very supportive.
Mhm.
And he also said something that really stays with me is that he said that I was doubtful, but I'm confident today, is that I knew something was wrong and I couldn't put a finger on what was wrong with my productivity. So with your productivity over the
Mhm.
years, because he had seen me in the top class when I was working as a young student coming out of my college, and then moving and running in these big circles where I basically was picked to work frontline, and he couldn't fathom it. And so my abuse explained it. So he was the most supportive person, and I
Mhm.
still have so much thankfulness for him, where he understood. And I was going to school at the time as well, but I couldn't finish that. And
Mhm.
I explained my professors as well that, hey, I had to call the cops. I'm dealing with a whole lot. I think I won't be able to enroll in school hereafter. I just need to take care of this. And they were saying the same thing. They were like, your participation was good, your everything was good, but there was something missing because I was never on time. And why I wasn't on time? Because abuse. I
Mhm.
wouldn't know when the blowout's gonna come up. I wouldn't know when he's gonna get angry. We can't fathom that. So to the short answer to your question was, I didn't have a support system personally, but professionally I had a support system. And I didn't realize back then, but my biological family was not a support system as well, because eventually when I did leave my ex, they were the first people who were jumping on me like piranhas to live off of me. Because now I was
Mhm.
single, now it was my duty to raise these ungrateful people like them. And until I put my foot down and I realized, I guess we are riding solo in this lifetime.
Mhm. Yeah. So what was your plan of action, or what was your course of action as you escaped the grips of abuse?
Wow. Um, the plan of action was to distance myself as much as I could.
Mhm.
And I had rented storage very scarily, because I didn't want him seeing the statements or the transactions for the storage membership. I'd rented a storage which was right next to my work place. And so I was slowly transporting stuff in there. My clothes, bags. If I had some cash, I didn't keep it in the house. I kept it in the storage. That way it was safer. And I started doing that, I'd say 5 or 6 months before everything happened. And there were some times when he would get angry if I didn't have anything, because I had already moved it to the storage, so I would have to move it back again. So it was give or take few. But the main planning was how to leave him. That was the biggest, but because the control was so overwhelming that I couldn't breathe without him knowing how much breath I've taken, how much air I have inhaled, and how much space I was taking where I was sitting, how much food I was eating. Like everything was monitored very, very, very closely. And I couldn't even use my phone. I would have to hide my phone. And so it just fortuitously happened that one of my friends, I had sent them one of the videos of the abuse, which was accidentally recorded on the home security apps. And they thought it's happening in the real time when they saw it. So they called the cops. And we weren't home, we were on the way home. And the cops showed up at the house. And he's talking to them through the Ring app. And he's very scared. And I realized this could be something big. And I still didn't think that I could leave him, even when the cops were there and we were driving back with the friend who said, I have karma, I should die to eradicate that. She was driving us back and she didn't want to be in any part of it. She is one of the most abusive people. And she didn't want to be any part of it because, again, it's a burden on her if she is. So the cops were speaking with him through the Ring app and they were checking on me. And he was telling me to stay quiet as I was sitting in the back of the car, not say a word. And I didn't, but then in a split second, I realized this is my chance. If I don't take it, it's not happening. And when you're being tested, you're really being tested. So I snatch his phone and I tell officer, I'm right here. I'm in the car and I'm coming to you. And he doesn't want me going. And he's blocking because the car is two-door car.
Sorry. Okay.
He's
But he's
blocking
blocked.
me and the car is a two-door car. So I can't get out without the person in front of me, and people in front of me are both abusive. They don't want to move. So from wherever I received the energy or the power, I pushed him out. I got out. He's trying to hold me. I'm screaming on the top of my voice. I leave my bag. It was cold. It was very cold that night. I'm screaming. I leave my shoes behind because I'm trying to run. And I leave everything behind except a jacket on me and my socks in my feet. And I'm running and I see the cops and I tell them, I said, yeah, I need to get out. I'm getting out. So I packed up my whole life in 20 minutes and lost $700,000 and a home and everything that I ever had, and got out with not just the bag, but a whole lot of baggage of my abuse. And I'm here today. I don't have the baggage anymore because I I was able to heal that.
Yeah. And, from great pain, um, you were able to, rebuild this life that we see today. So I want to talk a little bit about the life that we see today and the Metta we see today. Um, so before we get into all the wonderful things that you're doing, um, I wanted to talk about, like, take a step back just a little bit and talk about um, the mental health aspect and what you do today to preserve your mental health and to keep the baggage that you referred to before shed and way behind. So, what do you do today to keep the baggage back there and not put it back on your back?
The first and foremost is I tell myself everything that happened was not my fault. I didn't
Mhm,
deserve it. No one deserves it. And keep validating that because, hey, I was born to an emotionally immature parents. I didn't know that. It's not in my control if two emotionally immature adults get married, have sex, birth a child, and raise it unhappily. That's not on me. And I
mhm,
was that child. My purpose when I was born was to just grow and be myself, which I never got to do. It was always that, oh, you're always asking for stuff. You're not a good kid. You don't listen to us. It was just like complying fearfully, or forcing for complying fearfully into obeying them all the time, which is not healthy. And that reflected back in my marriage, which when I saw looking back, I again tell myself I didn't deserve it. And it's not on me. And, still in the end, I didn't lose anything because I still got myself. They are the one
mhm,
who lost somebody who they needed, like
mhm,
my biological parents. They needed me, for my everything, how bright I was. I looked good, so it gave them a society standpoint because, oh yeah, we have a daughter who looks good, who speaks well, who's educated, and um, everything I did. And then also for my ex-husband, I was a pretty good wife. I'm still a pretty good wife if I were somebody's wife. I would
mhm,
want to support my husband. I would want to hold space for him, emotionally support him, and also financially support where I can. I don't have the capacity anymore because of how much I suffered in my marriage. But when we were married, I did everything I could and more than that. And no husband, no healthy husband in the right mind would ever treat a wife who treats them with so much love, care, support in every way, and still blame it on her because she's making him beat her. She's
mhm,
making him angry. Like, no.
mhm,
Why would a person in right mind would ever think that about their wife? No. None of these people were in right mind. And it's not
mhm,
on me to carry the burden of their mental health issues. And
mhm,
I tell myself I have always been healthy. Like ever since I was child, I would also tell my biological mother that I'm not ever allowing you in in my wedding, or even allowing you to see my kids. This was me since I was 12 years old, because that's how much I didn't agree with the way she was behaving with me or raising me. And things were things would be so bad sometimes that I would, as a child, I remember asking her as a 14, 15-year-old child, that tell me who my real mother is, because I don't
Mhm.
believe you. You're not my real mother. Because in my head, I just can't comprehend that how can a real mother treat her kids like this? You're my aunt, and I'm going to call you aunt hereafter. And I did call her aunt for a couple of days until she threw a
Mhm.
tantrum and I couldn't anymore.
Mhm. Mhm. So, in light of all of that, um, and outside of saying this wasn't your fault, Meta, this wasn't your fault. This was the other people. This was their own mental instability or emotional, malnourishment that caused them to act in such a way. How else do you preserve your mental health today?
I'd say my meditation practice was a
Mm-hmm.
big support. And there are different takes on this, because when you are going through or you have gone through extreme trauma and abuse, meditation can be slightly difficult because it's
Mm-hmm.
just so heavy on you and on your mind. And it was for me too. And I'm a doctor, and I had made one rule for myself, is that looking back, that I don't want to use any medications for my or prescriptions for my mental health. And I want to
Mm-hmm.
do this raw and as much as consciously possible, because I want to feel every healing point or stage that I reach.
Mm-hmm.
The journey was long, it wasn't easy. I started in 2022, and I would say I have finished last year in 2024. It was long, almost 2 years long.
Mm-hmm.
And meditating helps you come to a place of peace where you can reframe your mind and say and believe and see for yourself is that none of that was my fault or our fault. We had no control. However, I know I have control, and this is what works for me. And if anyone behaves outside of what works for me, is out of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So my meditation practice, my spiritual practice, helped me define what kind of life I want, what kind of relationship I want, what kind of partner I want, what kind of future I want. And I validated myself to a point where no one can tell me that what I want is wrong, or,
Mm-hmm.
oh, if you just grow up a little more, you'll realize you want something else. No, that's not happening. For example, I had always been on the fence about having kids ever since I was a child. For the most part, it was because I have seen so many unhealthy parents. I I realized that if that's what is like raising a child, I don't want to do it. I would rather not have a kid and be in peace, as opposed to bringing a kid and become part of the problem, which is causing suffering in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And as I kept growing up, I still kept being on the fence, and no one would really answer questions about pregnancy. My mom never did. No one would talk about being pregnant and how the journey is, at least not around me. And even if they did, they would always talk about how difficult it was, and not how rewarding it is, and what kind of rewards there are of having kids, or what brings them the most joy of being a parent. No. And so I'm married. We never had kids. I'm very happy about that. I feel very grateful that I never had kids with my abusive
Mhm.
ex, because if I did, I would probably have to leave them behind along with everything else I did. Because
Mhm.
if I needed to heal, grow, or have a life, I could not have done that with kids at all.
Mm.
And that's why I say I've lost $700,000, because I literally said, I don't want any of this. I just want to be myself. I just want to be
Mhm.
free. And that's fine if I don't have the money, if I just have myself, I'll live humbly, but I'll be safe and happy. And coming back to my example was, we didn't have kids, but then after I left my ex-husband and I was meditating, I asked myself repeatedly for months, I'd say like 3 months or so, in my meditations and also in real life, that do I really want kids? Do I have capacity for kids? And at that point, I realized I don't have physical, mental, emotional capacity for kids. And if I don't
Mhm.
have that capacity, I don't want to knowingly have kid and not be able to fulfill that, because they are going to rely on me for their whole life as a parent every time they
Mhm.
need something. And I couldn't
Mhm.
be a parent who cannot knowingly, in my good consciousness, ignore my kids.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I didn't tell anyone. I made arrangements, and I made sure I'm going to be child free for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
And in the process, I also realized, and I made a determination. It's something called in spiritual practice. It's not for everyone. If people, I'm not sure if there are more lifetimes or not, but I have also made an agreement that I don't want to have kids in any future lifetimes, whatever I will have, if once I pass from here. And if I'm not gonna have any more lifetimes, then this would be the last one, and I'm not gonna be bringing any kid.
Mhm.
And that's my agreement with my faith and whatever I believe in. So when I told about it to many people, they were like, oh my God, then how are you going to get married again? What if your future husband wants kids? Then I said, then he won't be my future husband because he wants kids and I don't.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't have to live up to somebody else's expectations. I will
Sure.
gladly accept whatever love they share with me, but I wouldn't be the partner for them. And fulfilling that was the big part, because everything that came thereafter was easy, because now I know exactly what I say yes and no to, and I tell people on the faces that no, you're wrong, what you're saying might work for you but it doesn't, so I don't want to be involved, thank you. And that confidence took a lot of work to get here.
Oh, I love that for you. And I just wanted to just quickly um say thank you. Thank you for holding space for women in society who make a conscious decision not to have children. Um, and I say thank you because a lot of times women's identities are wrapped up in having children, being someone's mother. And if you're not, then you don't hold value. Or if you don't, give your significant other children, then what can you give him? And my answer and a lot of other women's answer, and I do have children. However, I also am very understanding of the viewpoint that you said. So for me, I just say thank you for holding space for women that make that decision and showing that it's okay to make that decision and it doesn't make you any less of a woman, any less of a powerhouse, any less of a mover or a shaker. You still hold value, you still bring something to this world, and you can still bring something to a relationship even if you make that decision. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Metta, for being an example of that.
Oh, those words mean so much to me.
Hmm.
I have a saying that I tell people when they ask me, do I have kids? or do I love my kids, or just about kids anyway, in any way? I said, I love my kids wherever they are, but they are not with me today, here. But wherever they are, I absolutely love my kids. And as women, we need to validate ourselves outside of that. We can still love equally. We can still love deeply, even without going through the process of motherhood, because we are motherhood in the end. We don't have to do something to be there. We were born a woman, and we live as a woman. And my message for all the sisters out there who want to stay child free and they're afraid or they're not able to voice is that what you want is valid. If you don't want your biological kids, good, fine. If you want to adopt, even better. You want to foster, way better. You want fur babies, go for it. Because it's all about what you want and what works for you, and not what society tells you. So thanks, Brittany,
Yes.
for saying all that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I wanted to wrap things up by talking about the wonderful things that you've created in this post-abuse life, and how you've used some of those things to even leverage this life that you live right now. So tell us what you're doing. You said you're a doctor. What kind of doctor are you, Miss Metta?
I'm a dentist,
Mhm.
and my specialty used to be in surgery. And that was most of my specialty back then. And during COVID, I was recruited frontline to work with health data in hospitals, and because of my experience in the past. And that has been what I've been doing since COVID for the most part. But I decided I want to learn more and I want to change. And I started with my meditation practice. It became deep, and I started sharing about it on social media, and people connected with me, especially recovering from abuse, spiritually becoming more aware, and defining my lifestyle around the practice and how it helped me every day recover more and more. And so now, today, I speak on many platforms. I speak in person conferences, in person events, online, on podcasts and YouTube. I do a lot of interviews and share about my abusive relationship and how I healed, and show people that it is possible to heal, to come out of that fear, of the scars that are left behind. And it will be there. It will be there, but it wouldn't bother you. Because the more we validate ourselves, the more we believe in ourselves, the easier it gets every day. And if for everyone who suffered abuse, it's a well-known fact that the body is physically weak after that much trauma. So give yourself rest. For me, when I had first left my ex and I was in the beginning of my healing journey, I remember my body needing sleep and the rest for hours. There were some times I would sleep 17 hours, 18 hours. It was like an everyday thing, and I would still feel tired, because that's for the first time in your life your body has safety. For most people, your body, it has safety and it's just wanting to rest now. And the life I have created on the other side today looks very healthy, minimalist, and very peaceful. And my apartment is so minimalist. It's opposite of what my ex-husband was and how my mom had the house. It was filled with so much stuff, and I hate stuff. I keep throwing stuff like every 6 months or 4 months. The food habits I like, and I like very, again, minimal food habits. So cooking what I like, because again, I realized I didn't have the freedom to do that before. And so I'm starting to do that for myself. And having the financial freedom to invest, not have people begging on my doorstep every now and then, and knowing that what money I make is mine and mine alone. No one has claim over it because I worked hard for it. No one offered me help when I needed it. Now that I am able to survive and have money for my needs, basic needs, I am going to do it. So money for investing in food, what we want. Also in financial investing, if someone has capacity, go do it. Money for education or time for education, furthering the education, running a business. On my free days, I volunteer to teach meditation at locations around me, near me. That has been very fulfilling. And I've made some money, but that's not for my primary source of income. I like sharing what I have done, and it gives people hope. And on the other side, looks very happy, healthy, peaceful, controlled, calm, and having relationships and life that aligns with my values, my vision, and my safety.
Yes, that is so, so beautiful. So, in my notes, I have that you do wellness retreats. Do you have any of those wellness retreats coming up?
Yes, so we have a retreat coming up in May, where
Mhm.
it's a 2-day retreat where we will do spiritual healing of different kind, journaling, inner child healing, hypnosis. I will lead a hypnosis session, meditations throughout the retreat. We might sprinkle a little bit of yoga, and then eating healthy. So I have my own recipes that I'm gonna share with all the participants. And if
Mhm.
you can't make the retreat, I also have online workshops for, again, inner child healing, abuse recovery, hypnosis, and journaling. So come see me wherever works for you.
Yes. So, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Metta's Meditation Studios. Or if you're not on Instagram, I'm also on TikTok as Metta Twin. And if nothing works, you can just email me at mettatwin144@gmail.com.
All right. So you guys heard it here first. We are here with Metta. She has all kinds of wellness retreats and just different things to help you be the best version of yourself and really, really get in touch with yourself and just understand who you are, what you like, what you don't like, what you want to tolerate, what you don't, all of those wonderful things so that you can live your life as the you 2.0. And I just made that up. Feel free to use that one.
Thank you.
But yeah, is there anything else you'd like to share as we bring our session to a close?
Yes. I want to validate people who grow up in childhood trauma and abuse before I go, because I feel like we don't receive as much validation. And since we don't grow up around a healthy support system, we don't realize what is in our control and what's not, and what we deserve and what not. And so for everybody who's grown up with some kind of childhood trauma and abuse, that can be any magnitude of it, I want to validate that if you want to live life alone, that is absolutely fine. If you want to live away from your family, that's absolutely fine. If you don't want to have any contact with your family, absolutely fine. Because remember, this life is yours, not theirs. They might have brought into the world, but they failed at raising the kid that they brought in the world. And if and when you identify that, you deserve so much better than what you received, what we all received. And don't be apologetic in asking for it. And if it's too much, feel free to go no contact. Feel free to cut them off, because you are important. We were never told. All the people who grew up in childhood trauma and abuse were never told how important we are. We were always told we are in the way, we are too much, our needs are not important, they can't fulfill it, we should just suck it up. None of that is true. Because guess what? You're a human being. You're on this planet. You're important. And I want you all to tell that yourself. You deserve better, or you deserve more, and you are important. And the end. And just see how the script in your head changes. And you'll also start seeing the experiences around you changing. And that's the hallmark that your life is improving, or you are healing. Healing is signified or indicated by the experiences and people who are around you. Because people who love you truly, genuinely, and value you would never treat you like shit, would never hurt you. What they will do is they will always love you, support you. Even if they disagree with you, they will never hurt you. And since we have never seen that growing up, we are fearful. But we were fearful of the wrong people. As an adult, we can change that. And you can do it because you have the power. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. What a beautiful parting message. And we appreciate you coming into this space and sharing your experience. We honor you and thank you so much for coming and sharing your story on Tips and Tea with Coach Brittany.
Sharing.
Oh my gosh.